The battlefield stretched endlessly under 3 purple suns, littered with twisted metal and the broken dreams of a dozen species. Captain Sarah Chen crouched behind the wreckage of a Catherian dropship, her rifle scanning for movement through the acrid smoke that hung like a funeral shroud over the wasteland. "Movement, 2 clicks northeast," whispered Sergeant Rodriguez through her comm. "Looks like a survivor." Sarah adjusted her scope and peered through the haze. What she saw made her stomach turn. A massive creature lay trapped beneath a collapsed beam from what used to be a Zalathi command vehicle. The thing was huge, easily the size of a small shuttle, with 6 powerful legs and armor-like hide that shimmered with an oil-slick iridescence. But it wasn't moving much anymore. "That's a HFY War beast," said Private Williams, his voice tight with recognition. "The Zalathi use them as shock troops. Thing probably killed hundreds of our boys." Sarah studied the creature more carefully. Its breathing was labored, and a pool of purple blood had formed beneath its massive frame. One of its legs was bent at an impossible angle, and she could see deep gashes across its flanks where shrapnel had found its mark. The beam across its back was easily 3 tons of solid metal. "Sir, we should move on," Rodriguez urged. "The Zalathi retreated 6 hours ago. They left their wounded behind, including that thing. Our orders are to secure the sector and move to the next objective." But something made Sarah hesitate. As she watched, the creature's great head turned slightly, and she saw its eyes. They weren't the mindless, rage-filled orbs she expected from a war beast. They were intelligent, aware, and filled with something she recognized all too well. The quiet acceptance of abandonment. "How long has it been trapped there?" she asked. Williams checked his scanner. "Based on the debris pattern, probably since the main assault yesterday. Maybe 18 hours. 18 hours. Sarah felt something cold settle in her stomach. The Zalathi had retreated in good order, taking their wounded and their equipment, but they had left this creature behind to die slowly under the weight of twisted metal. "Ma'am, we really should," Rodriguez began. "I heard you, Sergeant." Sarah lowered her rifle and stood up. "But look at that thing. Really look at it." Her squad exchanged glances. They had been fighting alongside the Zalathi for 3 months now, part of the Great Alliance against the Devourers. The Zalathi were effective allies, if cold ones. Their war beasts were legendary for their ferocity and loyalty. Sarah had seen them charge into plasma fire without hesitation, had watched them tear through Devourer lines like they were made of paper, and the Zalathi had just left this one to die. "Sir, even if we wanted to help it, that beam weighs more than our entire squad combined," Williams pointed out. "We don't have the equipment to move it." Sarah activated her comm and switched to the engineering frequency. "This is Fox 7 Alpha, calling any available engineering units. We need heavy lifting equipment at grid reference Charlie 97. "Negative, Fox 7 Alpha," came the reply. "All engineering units are committed to forward operations. What's your situation?" "Tenser." Sarah looked at the trapped creature again. It had stopped trying to move, but its eyes were still alert, still aware, still hoping, maybe, that someone would care enough to try. "We have a wounded ally trapped under debris," she said finally. "Request immediate assistance." There was a long pause. "Fox 7 Alpha. Be advised that all Zalathi forces have withdrawn from your sector. Confirm nature of trapped ally." Sarah felt her jaw tighten. She could lie, but that wasn't who she was. "It's a HFY War beast. Command." Zalathi unit abandoned it during withdrawal. Another pause, longer this time. "Fox 7 Alpha. You are advised that alien combat animals are not considered priority for rescue operations. Continue with your assigned mission." Rodriguez was shaking his head. Williams looked like he wanted to say something but thought better of it. Even Corporal Martinez, usually quick with a joke, was silent. "Understood, Command," Sarah replied, but she didn't move. The creature's breathing was getting shallower. Sarah had seen enough dying to know it didn't have long. Maybe a few hours at most. It would die alone. abandoned by the very beings it had served faithfully. In a place where no one who cared would ever find its body. She thought about her own dog back home, a German shepherd named Rex who had served 2 tours with her in the Marines before retiring to a life of tennis balls and belly rubs. Rex would have died for her without question, just like this creature had probably died for its handlers a dozen times over. Rodriguez, take point. Williams, rear guard. Martinez, start looking for anything we can use as leverage. Ma'am? Rodriguez's voice was carefully neutral. We're going to get that thing out of there. Sir, with respect, Command just said. Command said alien combat animals aren't priority, Sarah interrupted. They didn't say we couldn't help. And last I checked, I still outrank all of you. She started toward the trapped creature, her rifle ready but not aimed. As she got closer, she could see more details. The Horthak was even more impressive up close, its hide bearing scars from countless battles. Its harness was made of some kind of adaptive material that shifted color with its breathing. Most striking were the neural interface ports behind its skull. Clear evidence of the deep bond between Horthak and handler. The creature's head turned toward her as she approached, its large eyes tracking her movement. Sarah had expected hostility, but what she saw instead was curiosity. And something else. Recognition, maybe. This wasn't just a dumb animal. This was a thinking being, a warrior who had chosen to fight alongside the Zelathi, who they had chosen to abandon. Easy, big guy, Sarah said softly, unsure if the creature could understand human speech but hoping her tone would convey her intentions. We're going to try to help you. The Horthak made a sound, low and rumbling. That might have been acknowledgement, or it might have been a warning. Either way, it didn't try to attack her as she knelt beside the massive beam pinning it down. Up close, the situation looked even worse. The beam had crushed the creature's rear leg and was pressing down on its spine. Even if they could lift it, the damage might be too severe, but Sarah had seen combat medics work miracles before, and she knew that sometimes the will to live was enough to overcome impossible odds. Martinez, what do you have for me? She called. Found some emergency jacks from a crashed transport, ma'am. Might be enough to get some lift. But we'll need something to use as a fulcrum. Sarah looked around at the debris field. Twisted metal, broken equipment, and the detritus of war surrounded them. But wars also created opportunities for those creative enough to see them. There, she pointed to a section of fallen support beam. If we can position that under the trapped beam and use the jacks to create leverage, it might work, Williams admitted grudgingly. But ma'am, even if we free it, what then? That thing is hurt bad. We don't know anything about Horthak physiology. We could be causing more suffering. Sarah met the creature's gaze again. Those intelligent eyes seemed to understand the conversation, seemed to be weighing the same questions. But there was something else there now, something that looked almost like gratitude. Then we let it choose, Sarah said. But first, we give it the chance to choose. The next 2 hours tested every engineering trick Sarah had learned in 15 years of military service. The emergency jacks Martinez had found were designed for much lighter loads, and the makeshift fulcrum kept slipping on the uneven ground. Twice they had to start over when their improvised leverage system collapsed. But humans, Sarah had learned long ago, were particularly good at being stubborn. Rodriguez, get on that comm and see if you can raise any friendly units with heavier equipment, she ordered as she adjusted the angle of their fulcrum beam for the 4th time. Tell them we have a humanitarian situation. You think they'll buy that, ma'am? Rodriguez asked, already keying his comm. Probably not. But ask anyway. The Horthak had been watching their efforts with what Sarah could only describe as patient interest. It had stopped trying to free itself, seeming to understand that their clumsy but determined efforts were its best hope. Occasionally it would make that low rumbling sound, almost like a very large cat purring. Williams, I need you to get under there and see if you can clear some of the smaller debris, Sarah said. Just don't get yourself crushed if this thing shifts. Williams looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Sarah's voice stopped him. As he crawled under the beam with his demolition tools, the Horthak's great head swiveled to track his movement. For a tense moment, Sarah wondered if the creature might react defensively to having a human so close to its injured body. Instead, the Horthak carefully shifted its free front leg, moving it away from Williams to give him more room to work. "Well, I'll be damned," Martinez muttered. "Things actually helping." As Williams cleared away chunks of twisted metal and broken components, Sarah found herself studying the Horthak's neural interface ports more closely. She had seen similar technology on human military cybernetics, but this was more advanced, more integrated. The creature wasn't just wearing equipment. It was bonded with it at a neurological level. "How long do you think it served with the Zalathi?" she asked Martinez. "No way to know, ma'am. But look at those scars. This isn't some fresh recruit. This is a veteran. A veteran who had been abandoned by his own side when it became inconvenient to save him." Sarah felt her jaw clench again. She had seen a lot of ugly things in war, but betraying the trust of something that had served faithfully was near the top of her list. Rodriguez returned from his comm attempts, shaking his head. "No luck, ma'am. Nobody wants to spare resources for what they're calling alien wildlife rescue." "Their loss," Sarah said grimly. She positioned herself at the primary jack and nodded to her team. "All right, people. This is it. On my count, we lift together. Williams, you get clear the moment you see any movement." "Roger that, ma'am." "Martinez, Rodriguez, watch for structural failure. If anything starts to give way, we abort immediately." They positioned themselves around their improvised lifting system. Sarah caught the Horthak's eye and saw something there that made her breath catch. Trust. This creature, abandoned by its own kind, was trusting a group of humans it had every reason to consider enemies. 3, 2, 1, lift. The jacks groaned under the strain. Sarah put her full weight behind her lever, feeling the metal begin to bend under the pressure. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, reluctantly, the massive beam began to rise. "It's working," Williams shouted from beneath. "I can see daylight." The Horthak felt the pressure ease and immediately began trying to pull itself free, but its injured leg couldn't support its weight, and it collapsed back down with a sound of pain that cut through Sarah like a knife. "Hold it steady," she ordered. "Martinez, get over here and help Williams clear that leg." Sweat poured down Sarah's face as she fought to maintain pressure on her lever. The makeshift fulcrum was starting to crack, and she could hear alarming noises from the jacks. They had maybe another minute before the whole system failed. "Come on, big guy," she whispered to the Horthak. "Work with us here." As if it understood, the creature stopped struggling and began moving more carefully, using its good legs to slowly drag itself forward, while Williams and Martinez worked frantically to clear debris from around its trapped limb. "Almost there," Martinez called. "Just a few more inches." That's when Sarah heard the distinctive whine of energy weapons powering up. "Contact!" Rodriguez shouted, swinging his rifle toward a cluster of rocks about 200 meters away. 3 Devourer scouts. Moving this way." Sarah's blood turned to ice. The Devourers were the reason for this whole war. A species of energy-based beings that consumed other life forms for sustenance. They were fast, deadly, and had no concept of mercy or negotiation. "How long until they reach us?" she demanded. "Maybe 3 minutes at current approach speed." Sarah looked at their makeshift rescue operation. They were so close. The Horthak was almost free, but it would take at least another minute to clear its leg completely. And once free, the creature would need time to recover before it could move under its own power. "Ma'am, we need to abort and take defensive positions," Williams said urgently. Sarah met the Horthak's eyes again. The creature had heard the weapons fire and understood what it meant. In its gaze, she saw resignation again. It expected them to abandon it, just like the Zalathi had. "Negative," Sarah said firmly. "Rodriguez, Martinez, take defensive positions and slow those scouts down. Williams, keep working on that leg. I'll maintain the lift." "Ma'am, that's suicide," Rodriguez protested. "We can't fight 3 Devourer scouts from a fixed position. We're not leaving it behind," Sarah said. putting everything she had into keeping the beam raised. That's not who we are. The Horthak made another sound, different this time, softer. Sarah didn't need a translation to understand what it meant. Thank you. Rodriguez and Martinez set up overlapping fields of fire while Williams worked frantically to clear the last of the debris. The Devourer scouts were closer now, their forms shifting between energy and matter as they moved. Sarah could see their sensors scanning the battlefield, hunting for life signs. They've spotted us, Rodriguez called out. Opening fire in 30 seconds. Williams. Got it. Williams yanked away the last piece of twisted metal. It's clear. The Horthak didn't waste a second. Despite its injuries, it pulled itself forward with surprising strength. Finally dragging its mangled leg free of the beam, Sarah let the lever go and the massive piece of metal crashed down with a sound like thunder. But the Horthak was free. The creature tried to stand and immediately collapsed as its injured leg buckled. Sarah could see bone protruding through its armored hide, and purple blood flowed freely from the wound. It was alive, but it certainly couldn't fight or flee. The first Devourer energy bolt sizzled past Sarah's head, close enough to singe her hair. Return fire, she ordered, helping the Horthak lean against the wreckage for support. Give them everything we've got. Her squad opened up with disciplined bursts, their plasma rifles painting the air with deadly light. The Devourers responded with coordinated suppressing fire, their energy weapons carving glowing furrows in the ground around the human position. That's when Sarah heard something that made her heart leap with hope. The Horthak was growling, not in pain or fear, but in anger. Deep, rumbling anger that seemed to shake the ground itself. The creature's neural interfaces were glowing brighter, and Sarah could see its remaining good legs tensing despite its injuries. What's it doing? Martinez called out between shots. Sarah was about to answer when she saw movement in her peripheral vision. The Horthak was pulling something from its harness with its mouth, something that looked like a crystalline device about the size of a human fist. Before Sarah could ask what it was, the creature bit down hard on the device. The explosion of energy that followed was unlike anything Sarah had ever seen. The energy wave that erupted from the crystal device hit the approaching Devourers like a psychic sledgehammer. All three scouts simply stopped mid-stride, their forms flickering between energy and matter before collapsing entirely. The wave continued outward, and Sarah felt it pass through her like ice water mixed with electricity. For a split second, every nerve in her body screamed in harmony. Then silence fell over the battlefield like a blanket. What the hell was that? Williams gasped, picking himself up from where the energy surge had knocked him flat. The Horthak was breathing heavily, its neural interfaces dim now, nearly dark. The crystal device had crumbled to dust in its mouth. Whatever it had done, it had cost the creature dearly. Some kind of neural weapon, Sarah said, studying the collapsed Devourers. They weren't dead, the energy beings couldn't truly die, but they wouldn't be getting up anytime soon. It must have disrupted their consciousness matrices. Rodriguez was scanning the area with his sensors. Ma'am, I'm reading more Devourer units moving this way. That energy pulse lit us up like a beacon. We've got maybe 10 minutes before they arrive in force. Sarah looked down at the Horthak. The creature was clearly exhausted, its strength spent from the neural attack. Its injured leg was still bleeding purple onto the broken ground, and its breathing was labored, but its eyes were alert, watching her with that same intelligent awareness. We need to move, she said. Can you walk? The Horthak made an attempt to stand, managing to get its front legs under it before the pain from its injured rear leg forced it back down. It looked at Sarah and made a soft sound that might have been frustration or apology. It's okay, big guy. We'll figure something out. Sarah activated her comm. This is Fox 7 Alpha, requesting immediate evac for wounded. Emergency priority. Fox 7 Alpha, what's the nature of your wounded? Sarah hesitated for just a moment. Then she looked at the Horthak again, at the trust in its eyes, at the way it had fought alongside them without hesitation when the Devourers attacked. Human personnel, with critical injuries, she said. 4 souls, requiring immediate extraction. Williams shot her a look, but said nothing. Martinez and Rodriguez both smiled grimly. Roger, Fox 7 Alpha. Vector Echo, 7-9 is en route. ETA, 8 minutes. Can you hold position? Affirmative. We'll be ready. As they waited, Sarah found herself sitting beside the injured Horthak, checking its wounds as best she could with her limited medical supplies. The creature allowed her to examine its leg, even helping by shifting position when she needed better access. You know, Martinez said quietly, I've been thinking about what the Zelathi did, leaving it behind like that. Yeah? Sarah kept her voice neutral, focused on fashioning a makeshift bandage for the Horthak's deepest wound. My grandfather told me stories about military dogs from the old wars. Said they were the most loyal soldiers he ever served with. Never questioned orders, never hesitated to put themselves in danger for their human partners. Martinez paused. He also said that betraying that kind of loyalty was the worst thing a soldier could do. 1. The Horthak made that soft rumbling sound again, and Sarah realized it was responding to their conversation. Not just the tone, but the actual words. This creature understood human language. How long have you been listening to us? She asked it directly. The Horthak's head tilted slightly, and it made a series of soft sounds. Not quite speech, but definitely communication. Sarah found herself nodding as if she understood. The Zelathi had you learning human tactical protocols, she said, more statement than question. You were cross-trained to work with human units. Another rumble of confirmation. So when they left you behind, you knew exactly what that meant. The sound the Horthak made this time was unmistakably bitter. Rodriguez was shaking his head. If it was trained to work with humans, then abandoning it wasn't just cruel. It was stupid. These things are living weapons. The Zelathi just threw away a strategic asset. Maybe they thought it was too damaged to be useful, Williams suggested. Sarah looked at the Horthak's scars again, at the neural interface ports, at the intelligence burning in its eyes. No. They knew exactly what they were doing. Question is, why? The sound of approaching engines interrupted her thoughts. Their extraction bird was coming in fast. A heavy transport that could handle the Horthak's weight if they could get it aboard. All right, people, Sarah said, standing up. We need to get our friend here ready to travel. The Horthak watched the transport land with obvious wariness. Sarah could hardly blame it. The last time it had trusted allies to take care of it, they had left it to die. It's okay, she told it, placing a hand on its armored shoulder. These are our people. They won't leave you behind. The transport pilot was a grizzled veteran named Henderson, who took one look at the Horthak and whistled low. Jesus, Captain. When you said wounded personnel, I thought you meant people. I did, Sarah said firmly. This is Soldier Horthak. Attached to my unit as of right now. It needs medical attention. Henderson studied the creature for a long moment, then shrugged. Well, if it's good enough to fight devourers alongside you, it's good enough for my bird. Let's get it loaded. It took all 5 humans and a cargo winch to get the injured Horthak aboard the transport. The creature submitted to the process with patient dignity, though Sarah could see pain in its eyes with every movement. As they lifted off, Sarah found herself sitting beside the Horthak again. The creature was looking out the transport's small window at the battlefield below, watching the place where it had nearly died disappear into the distance. Henderson, Sarah called to the pilot. What's our destination? Forward medical station at Firebase Delta. They've got a full surgical bay. Can they handle non-human physiology? Doc Martinez there worked on Centauri refugees during the border conflicts. If anyone can figure out your friend there, it's her. Sarah felt some of the tension leave her shoulders. They had a chance. The Horthak made a soft sound and turned to look at her directly. In its alien eyes, she saw something she recognized from her own reflection after her first combat mission. Gratitude mixed with a profound sense of belonging found unexpectedly. What are you going to do when you heal up? She asked it quietly. The Zelathi won't take you back after what we've done. The Horthak considered this for a moment, then shifted slightly closer to Sarah. It rested its massive head against her shoulder, careful not to put too much weight on her. Sarah understood. 3 weeks later, Captain Sarah Chen submitted an unusual request to Human Military Command. She wanted to formalize the adoption of an alien combat specialist into her unit's table of organization. The request cited the creature's tactical value, its proven loyalty, and its extensive training in human military protocols. What she didn't mention in the official paperwork was simpler and more fundamental. She had looked into the eyes of a fellow soldier who had been abandoned by those it trusted. And she had made a choice. The same choice humans had been making for thousands of years whenever they encountered loyalty in need of protection. The request was approved within 48 hours. Soldier Horthak, officially designated as Specialist Tank by his new squad, proved to be everything Sarah had hoped, and more. Its tactical insights were invaluable, its loyalty absolute, and its willingness to put itself between humans and danger unquestioned. But more than that, Tank became living proof of something the galaxy was slowly learning about humanity. When humans decided something was worth protecting, they protected it. When they decided someone deserved loyalty, they gave it without reservation. And when they decided that something was family, they would move mountains to keep it safe. The Zelathi never understood what they had lost when they left Tank behind. But they learned to respect what humanity had gained. In a universe where pragmatism often trumped honor, where efficiency was valued more than loyalty, humans had chosen differently. They had chosen to be better. And in the depths of space, in the middle of a war against beings that saw all life as merely fuel for their hunger, that choice made all the difference.